anomalies.
Hey, you know, one of my favorite movies is Boomerang with Eddie Murphy, you know, and
Yes.
and one of the things that I can tell you is speaking to you, I'm like, you know what, you're the real life Boomerang. Like all your stories and everything that you tell me, um, you know, we definitely want to hear them. I don't know what's up with your camera's a little blurry.
My camera.
Not trying to focus on you.
Hmm.
Like it
What is
focuses, your hand
this?
was clear.
Let me see.
I'll
What's
take you
this
down
now?
real quick. See if you can get your camera. Um, the real life Boomerang, Eddie Murphy. That when that movie came out, it was one of my favorite movies because this guy basically had everything, right? He had a great job, great income, great clothes, was able to get any beautiful woman that he wanted, and he just did his thing. And I got somebody that I talked to who I was like, you're the real life Boomerang for real. So Robert, bring you on stage, and I just want to learn from you because you got some incredible stories. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
I'll talk like I have common sense today.
Oh, you could let it do what it do. You know what I mean? You could let
Yeah.
it do what it do. But I was going to ask you. I know that you had a very successful career in corporate America. You're one of the best dressed guy that I've ever met. You know what I mean? You're always giving me tips, and I definitely appreciate it. I'm not going to spill the beans with your tips, but I just want to say, what do you attribute your success to?
Being focused.
Being focused.
You have to you have to figure out what it is you want, and you have to stay focused
Mm,
more than anything. You're gonna hit ups and downs, and the focus of your goal is not necessarily the goals of the management people, because a lot of times they're looking out for themselves and not necessarily you. Or they have, like I always tell people, they have their posse or their tribe that they look after, and they're not looking after you. And mine is, I stay focused on me and corporate goals, underlining what management want.
mm. Yeah, you told me that one crazy story is you always figured out a way how to get something done, and your managers and the people that you reported to were like, "How did you do that?" You know?
They had a process. Let me
Hmm.
turn on this other light. Hold on.
Okay.
They had a process, and the process was, you get a task or whatever, you go through region, then you come back through your manager, and then you schedule an appointment back through region. My
Hmm.
thing was, but I noticed that if they had their tribe or their posse, they could come in and they could jump in whenever they chose to with somebody else's meeting. So I
Mm.
got, like I said, rambunctious, and I told them, I says, if you don't have a meeting during this time, I want you to get out. And it wasn't that nice, but I told them they had to get out. And I found some sources through people that I've met in headquarters, and I would go through my own channels and I get things done. It's as long as I achieve my goals. The best things I like about being in sales and marketing and is when you achieve your goals, nobody touches
Mm.
you.
Mm.
Nobody.
Mm.
As long as you achieve your goals, and I always exceeded requirements. Like I
Yeah.
told you, one of the biggest things that happened to me, and I was with one of my partners yesterday. The reason why I couldn't get on and talk with you guys was the fact that we both worked for the Big X, and I was in the top 10 for customer satisfaction in the world.
Wow. That's a huge organization. Big X. You talking about Xerox?
Yeah,
Wow.
I
Wow.
was just one of those people that, you tell me what to do, I do it. You tell me your process, I'll do your process. But if I go outside of your process, I'm going to document it. And then when I have my executive interview, which is an interview with any manager above my manager's level, I
Hmm.
just report it. This is
Mm.
what I had to do to get this accomplished.
Wow. Hey, you know what? Have you ever been fired from a job? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, I did. And the reason why I was fired was because I was hired to fire a guy.
hired to fire. Okay.
I was hired to fire
Okay.
because of my credentials and what I knew and all that sort of stuff. But what management wanted me to do, or this manager above me wanted me to do, was to fire this person just because.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to a point after I started to know the guy and understanding his process and what he was doing and his accomplishments. I hate to say it, but I had the balls to say no.
Wow.
I says, I'm not going to do it. They says, you were hired and we expect you to. And I says, I'm not going to do it. He's doing nothing wrong and I'm just not going to do it.
Mm.
And he says, that may be your job. I says, then so be it. So this woman who always wanted my job, they told her that she was now my supervisor. And she says, Robert, I'm going to tell you right now, from the very beginning, she says, you're not doing a job. And if you don't improve or whatever you're doing in I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, you're fired. Well, part of that was me firing this guy. And I told him no.
Yeah. They showed you the door.
I
So
mean, the thing is, I remember I told you the biggest thing with me is I'm ethical.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't believe in doing things just because you say it. I like to use the insurance terms. I hate to be churned. I hate to be twisted. I hate to be coerced. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
You can just come up to me straightforward, tell me what I
Mhm.
got to do, and let me do it.
Yeah.
If
I asked that question because my employment was terminated recently. And I know, this it's December 6th. I got an email. I had a meeting with leadership. We didn't really see eye to eye. And they were like, look, we're going to think about what we want to do. And we'll let you know. You just stay home today and tomorrow. As soon as I got off that meeting, I lost access to the internet. I mean, not to the email, services and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I know what's the shoe's about to drop. I understand what's going to happen. And then they terminated the position. And so for a lot of people, I know that just when life happens, especially going into like the holiday season, people can lose their minds. So I'm wondering
that
what
and
you
that's
did.
you have to look out for that, because that
Yeah.
was some of the things that I would see is that when I first joined, I hate to bring up the name Xerox, but it was, you have a year and I think 2 months for training before they give you your territory.
Okay.
After 2 months, I took over my territory and I took on 100% responsibility of what came out of my territory or what happened to the territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sign a document
Mm-hmm.
saying that I was doing that. Well, I think it was maybe 7 months later, it was President's Club. And there was one, since I hadn't been in
Mm-hmm.
plan for a year,
Yeah.
I couldn't go to club.
Games
But
they
my
like to
manager had a slot
play.
and he could give it to anybody he wanted.
Yep.
And he gave it to a girl who started a week before me. She was still a trainee,
Wow.
but of course, blonde haired, blue eyes.
Yep. Yep.
And eventually I told upper management about it. They went back, they checked it. And this guy ultimately, he wound up getting put on a list
Yeah. Yeah.
because I told him, I says, I'm not trying to, I understand it was his decision, but how come his decision was like that? Does that mean that I hate to be, I'm very pointed. I
Yeah.
says, that he makes poor management decisions.
Mhm.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
just said it.
Yeah.
I said, because I was in territory, I'd signed off on it. I just couldn't go to club because I hadn't been with the company for a year.
And somebody else who hadn't been with the company for a year went
No, she went and she only had 1 week
before you.
prior to me.
Yeah, no,
1 week.
that's what I'm saying. Make up the rules as they go. What I want to focus on though is, how did you bounce back or maintain after leaving that employment? You know what I mean? What was it that kept you going?
Well, first and foremost, up until around about, I'd say maybe a year ago, I always kept 2 resumes in my car. I'm not kidding. Seriously. Up until about 2 years ago, I just took out 2 resumes that I still had in the envelopes in the trunk of my car.
Okay.
Whenever anybody said something or whenever there was an opportunity, I just, hey, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I go back to my car and I hand them a resume.
Okay.
So basically, I was blessed, whereas I was out for a while.
Mhm.
Now, there were 2 times I was just telling a friend of mine today and my wife, 2 or 3 times in my life, I took a $30,000 cut in salary. I think I told you that too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but I took that because once again, I had a job where I had to travel. And they kept on saying, well, you have to travel, you have to travel, and you have to be here, and you have to be there. And I says, didn't I tell you before we started that basically I'm a single parent in a state where I have no relatives. My closest relative is in Pennsylvania, and I'm living in Illinois. And I said, they says, well, it's your job and you have to do this. And I says, I don't have to do anything. They says, well, what do you mean? I says, you told me it's my job. I says, it's not my job, it's your job. I says, take this as my 2-week notice. So once I was out of work for over a year, and once I was out of work for like 9 months with no income.
Yeah.
But remember, the other thing about it is that I tell everybody I was a saver.
Yep.
If I made $1, I mean, if I made $10, I put $1 aside. And that,
Yeah.
I prepared myself. And even when things really went down, when Xerox totally went out of business, people I had helped all my life or was there for them, nobody, when I say nobody, not one person was there for me.
Wow.
Nobody.
Wow.
And I'd never mentioned or
That's
said anything to anybody my entire life.
mm,
So then I said, maybe I have a skewed view of the world, and I have to look at the world differently, and I have to look more closely at. I treat people the way they treat me. Be open and honest. Be ethical, but don't get hung up in my own BS, thinking that everybody's like me. Just don't do it.
so man. Yeah. And you know what's interesting is I'm getting ready to launch, a program called the Money Makeover Challenge. Um, and with the Money Makeover Challenge, one of the things is life is going life, but there's things that you can do to make sure that you're always prepared. And so for anybody that's if you worked a job for 10 years, let's say you're making $50,000 a year, with what you're saying, having that habit of being a saver, 10%, right? Anybody will tell you, oh, you got to save 10%. You get 100, you got to save $10, right? Well, if you've done that over a 10-year period, making 50,000, you would have 50,000 in the bank because you're saving 5,000 a year. And so if the rug gets pulled from under you, you're not going to freak out because you're like, yeah, I got a cushion, right? So I'm pretty sure that's what you felt doing those transitions, losing $30,000
And
in
even when
income.
I first moved to Florida, it was hard. I think there was one job I had. Well, that was another job I got fired from. I can't say fired. They wanted me to do some unethical things. Basically, it was for the well, anyway, it's unethical, and they wanted me to take a photostatic copy of a person's signature and then lay it over the area where the person's signature was to be and line those lines up and then say that they signed it.
Wow.
I didn't do it.
Wow.
I said, no.
Yeah. Did they let you go for that? For not doing it?
It was because the people who were doing it were making plan.
Yeah.
Everybody who wasn't doing it wasn't making plan because
Mm,
they were, once again, stealing, cursing, twisting,
yeah.
turning, and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
just refuted. Besides that, this is federal stuff. And
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, everything was said and done. 3 of my coworkers went to jail.
Wow.
because the federal government came in and saw where they had cut and paste the signature, and they went to jail.
That's crazy. Hey, either the environment is gonna, impact you, or you're gonna impact your environment. And so you were able to stand on business, as people say, and make sure that you didn't violate your principles, your values, and being ethical in what you're doing. So, man, kudos to you. A lot of people don't have the courage to do that.
And my father was a big influencer in that. My father says, and right now, if you ask me, I used to always tell people I used to hate it when women would put on a dress or have their hair a certain way. And they say, well, how do I look? And the first thing I'd say is, I think you should go to the mirror and see how you look. And you can draw that conclusion yourself. But then they say, well, how do you think I look? I hate to say it, I was brutally honest.
Yeah.
And most people can't take it. Most people
Yeah.
can't take that when you're brutally honest. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't have to say it like that. I said, then why did you ask me? If you didn't want to know what I thought, my feelings, my emotions about something, don't ask me. Because
Yeah.
I always tell people, I don't know about your parents, but my parents was always be honest. If you lie, you steal.
If you lie, you steal. What do you mean by that?
Most people who lie, they will steal something and they'll lie about it later on. So it was always, if you lie, you steal. If you steal, you'll lie. And it was always that thing. And that was not my MO.
Wow.
And like I said, my father was military. He only stayed in regular time, but he was telling me about all the atrocities about being in the military and being the prejudices and all that sort of stuff. As a matter of fact, I just now noticed that Tyler Perry just created a movie that's coming out, I think the 20th of next month, about the Black women in the military during World War II.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
800 and some odd women that they had in a platoon or battalion, whatever it is. And their job was not only to give first aid and hand out coffee and all that, but their job was to be concubines for the Black men, because the American soldiers didn't want the Black soldiers to intermingle with the white Europeans.
Wow.
And this is, God, I didn't know that. And I just found out today, and I was just awed by it, because I try to stay abreast. And if you hear me say a lot of things as it pertains to Black history.
Yeah. I did not know that either. That's amazing. Wow. Hey, sir, I'm gonna have you back again. I appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. There's a lot more that we want to dive into, but I think I'm gonna cut it off right here and have you back. So thank you so much, Mr. Berry.
It was a pleasure spending time with you and the doc. And even though I didn't see him, nor did I talk with him, but it was a pleasure.
All right. See y'all next time.
Right.